it's nice to see you both again. So this is episode 5 of our podcast. And so should we do a quick introduction for any new viewers?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe should we start with Di?
Hello, I'm Diane, Diane Coates Sinclair, and I'm a director at the Sculpture School.
I'm Andy. I am the main tutor and a director at the Sculpture School as well.
And my name's Lindsey Bauer, and I'm a creative arts executive at the Sculpture School. So I help with outreach and general dog's body. So how
dog's body?
How have you both been?
Yeah, we've been great.
Good, thank you. Yeah. We had a trip back to my old stomping ground over the weekend. We went to a wedding in Surrey, which was nice.
Oh, nice.
It was very, very charming, wasn't it?
It was. I hate weddings, but this was a good one.
I love a wedding.
Did
everybody look glamorous?
Yeah.
And was it in a beautiful old, an old house, or was it in a church? Or?
It was in their garden, but it was a beautiful
lovely
country garden with wild grass and pathways going through and feathers.
I like it.
Lots of wild flowers. And it was beautiful. It was really lovely done.
And did the weather hold out for you?
Oh, it's great.
It did actually.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, it's stunning.
So we feel like we've been a bit of a holiday.
Yeah, I can imagine. Also, it's really nice to see love, isn't it? A loved up couple and happy weddings and families.
It was really nice.
Yeah,
it was really lovely.
Yeah, and then
good to be back in Surrey as well for a change.
Yeah, it's got so many pretty villages and things, hasn't it? Really beautiful to sort of drive through. So, and I went to Howser and Worth Gallery in Somerset. I'm just
in Bruton.
Yeah, yes. And Bruton's really pretty itself, isn't it?
Place,
I went through Bruton to get to Howser and Worth, and there was a really intriguing gallery, just very quickly, called Black Paper, and it had some unusual canvases in of cowboys, and it was just really cool. I had a look through the window, and then Howser and Worth is just a really stunning, unusual place for anyone who hasn't been. But anyway, let's move on to Sculpture School. So I know you've got an exhibition coming up. So would you like to tell everyone about it?
I think Di's the best one to do this because I've been rushing through a whole load of work and I don't know what I'm doing. As usual.
The exhibition is called Widdershins.
Okay.
And it is in the Green Hill Arts Gallery in Morton Hampstead in Dartmoor.
Okay.
And we're very excited because we're in seriously illustrious company because we're exhibiting with Brian and Wendy Froud.
Okay.
And also Alan Lee, who is the artist who did all the illustrations for the Tolkien's Lord of the Rings book. So I feel like I'm a bit of an imposter actually being there, but it's very exciting to be sharing the same exhibition space as them. Plus, there's lots of other artists there as well, but it's quite exciting actually. It starts on the 19th of June and runs right the way through till September. So anyone out there that wants to go in and have a look, definitely worth it.
So, because we talked about Brian and Wendy Froud last time, didn't we? And they do you want to just very quickly remind listeners of their type of art?
Well, they're renowned for their work on Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal. Wendy created Yoda in Star Wars. So they have this rather illustrious career in the film industry. And quite rightly, they have a really strong following from all the achievements that they've created with Jim Henson. So it's exciting. I tried to get to work with Jim Henson and I didn't even get my foot through the door.
Yeah, but at least you know people who know him. So you're kind of you've got a tenuous link.
It's a nice link as well.
It is an acquaintance of sorts. So I'm guessing from Alan's involvement. I know Alan is such a lovely person. We bump into each other, and he always dresses beautifully. He's got a really cool style about him. And I don't know Brian and Wendy, but obviously I've heard lots about them from you too. So is the whole exhibition kind of a more otherworldly theme, like we discussed?
Yes, it's a sort of myth and magic, really. and fantastical creatures. And all the artists are local and either live on Dartmoor or close by.
Okay.
So there's lots of things to see, from sculptures, paintings, drawings. There's some amazing stuff going in, I think.
No.
Very exciting.
Exciting. Can you tell us anything about what you've entered into the exhibition?
I would. But,
He
just gave me a quizzical look then.
It was a slightly scared look because
as
Di's
usual,
organised the whole thing.
I'm the person that does all the admin and all the entrance details and everything, and so I just have to tell Andy what he's doing.
I guess because you're actually making the sculptures, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're sort of like the coal face, working hard on your commissions, and then Di's like, you're supporting everything else, aren't you?
I'm sort of curating everything, collating everything, and getting it all together. So, yes, Andy's got I think it's 4 or 5 sculptures going in.
Okay.
And they are all sort of mythical creatures or people from imagination, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we've got Cacabel and Moodius Centaurus and Prehistoric Girl. And they're all fantasy sculptures that Andy created for a show some time ago, actually. But they're all from your imagination, aren't they?
Yes, they're the things I would have done or did when I had time away from contracts.
Yeah, which is lovely.
It is.
To be able to have the time to do, which doesn't happen very often.
See, when you've got free reign, Andy, like when you've actually, say you're not home to do a commission or something, and or corporate contracts and things, you can just let your imagination go up. That's what you're drawn to.
Yeah, it only happens about once a year, actually, because it is incredibly busy at the studio. So we're rushing from one thing to another. I'm still feeling rushed just coming over here because I've just been putting pink silicone rubber up at Corgis' bottom, which under normal circumstances would get you on the front page of The Sun and probably a stretch in jail. But in my world, it's totally normal.
Just a regular day. Well, that leads us nicely on to what we're going to talk about for the first part of the podcast. So, but actually, before we do that, let's just, for listeners, details in terms of seeing your exhibition. So can they find the details by the website?
Yes, there's on the Green Hill Arts Gallery website.
Okay.
There's all the information about it's called Widdershins 3.
Okay.
And it opens on the 19th of June. We'll be putting details up on our website probably as well, but also on Facebook.
Okay.
And I didn't say what I'm putting in either, which is a whole series of paintings that are based on Beltane that we were talking about in one of the other episodes. So I've got a series of watercolour and ink paintings of Beltane dancers and crows and all mystical, magical stuff.
It's just nice to see Di painting again.
Yeah, no, so Lucy, who's going to be in episode 6 of our podcast, and I were looking at Di's paintings last week because they'd just been framed, and they are stunning. They are so dramatic, and there's also one that's slightly more subtle, but it's really beautiful because it looks like a Roman maiden, kind of like giving like a telepathic message to a crow. You have to see it. I'm not describing it very well, but she's leaning over a crow, and it's in this beautiful kind of archway, or sort of in the background is a window, isn't there, or an arch, and she's leaning over a crow, and she's got her hands like this on either side of the crow's head, but not sort of right up to the crow. It's just like stunning, and it's just really evocative. And just thinking about it, we loved all of your pictures, and the Beltane Morris dancers with that sort of black feathers that we discussed in a previous episode are just striking. But yeah, I can't wait to see the exhibition.
Oh, and the Beltane doll will be in there as well. The one that I made.
Fantastic.
We talked about.
Yeah, when we talked about sculpting in polymer
at Brian and Wendy's workshop. So that will be there too. So something for people to catch up on.
No, that's lovely. So both of you have exhibits in this.
It's really nice.
Yeah, in this show.
Yeah, it's a real honour to be asked, actually.
It is. Yeah. I've definitely got imposter syndrome at the moment.
You shouldn't have. No, both of you are so incredibly talented. Yeah, so for viewers, you can just Google Greenhill Arts
Gallery in Morton Hampstead.
Greenhill Arts Gallery. And then you'll get all the details. But no, fantastic. Okay. So we were going to talk today for the first part of this podcast about how you depict emotions on a face when you're sculpting. And for people who don't know how we refer to this when you're sort of an outsider. So if you hear artists or sculptors talk about portrait, they automatically mean the face, don't they? And you get animal portrait, human portrait. So when we talk about portrait sculpting, we mean sculpting the face. So yeah, who would like to start us off about sculpting?
I'm looking at you this time.
Yeah.
Yes, I might actually know what's going on when we talk about stuff like this. When I'm teaching this at the sculpture school, it comes in two stages. The first stage is learning how to measure a face.
Okay.
So that you feel confident and competent in the way that you're transmitting measurements that you've taken from the real person to the clay work. That's the fundamental essence of how portrait sculpture is made. But it's a practice way of doing it. The first way of doing it is a neutral expression, so that you're learning the ropes as such. After that, once you've got comfortable with that, you've done a few portraits with a neutral expression, move into smiles or whatever it is, whatever expression you want to be able to put in. And that becomes fascinating because when I go to meet a new client, for example, and I'm going to be doing a portrait of them, it is, I'm looking to see how they are. Are they happy people, grumpy people? What's their expression? What kind of movements do they make when they're talking to you? It's all those factors that I've got to assess very, very quickly in order to be able to make a sculpture that lives and breathes that person, because it's not just a physical likeness. It's all about the way that they conduct themselves, really. So once that's been assessed, then the photographs that I take of the client whilst I'm with them will have that expression or that look to their face. It's not a neutral look. So that you're getting that person, and people that love them and know them will relate to them much more strongly because you've captured that little bit extra. You remember, I've talked about it before, when we're talking to each other, we are being affected mostly by personality, aura, and charisma. And in sculpture, those three main aspects are gone. So in order to be able to bring those back, you have to use everything in your arsenal to be able to recreate that or make the observer believe that that's there. So there's a lot to it, actually. And it's why I'm really drawn to portraiture. I just think it's fantastic. It's a challenge. It has to look like the person, but that's the first stage. Then it has to carry the soul of that person. And that takes what I call the tricks of the trade. It's all about rules of thumb. It's the way that the face works. And you learn about how expression affects the face.
And you often say that if you were doing a portrait of me, you'd have to do it smiling, because it's rare that you see me not smiling, don't you?
Going to my Sarah not smiling when she's driving the car. She doesn't think the car's very amusing, obviously.
Yeah. And then it's not Andrew, it's Andrew.
If it's Andrew and she's not smiling.
If you're trying to sculpt someone when they're smiling, so when they're posing for you, and this is going to link to the way that you teach, which is different to the way classical sculpture can be taught in places like Florence, for example. So how long would you get Di to sit for you? And you talked about photographs as well. So can you talk us through, because you do it differently, don't you?
Very much so.
And obviously people can't sit and hold a smile.
You can't hold a smile for
very long at all.
It ends up looking really, really strange and odd.
Yeah.
So
even with a series of photographs, you cannot maintain a smile.
No.
So each photograph has to be, the smile has to be recreated. And so you keep the whole It's not necessarily a smile, actually, when you're doing somebody. It's what captures them that's the important thing. And you can't maintain that you can't maintain it for 10, 15 seconds, actually. If you try and smile when you're not feeling like smiling, it cracks your face, doesn't it? It's uncomfortable. So it has to be recreated on every photograph. And my belief and my modus operandi is to go and see my client, and nearly all of them are wealthy men.
Right.
They haven't got any time because they're busy being important. And I've got half an hour to 45 minutes to do all of this to capture who they are, to take their measurements, and to take a series of photographs. Now, those photographs are absolutely key. In fact, every aspect of this is absolutely key. And to me, it's something to be practiced, because when you go in, you want your client to be put at rest, at ease, and you want them to enjoy the process. If they enjoy the process, then everything runs smoothly. So we start with the photographs. I take in my own chair, which moves around.
Right.
Sit them down, put my camera on a tripod. So now I've got them in a fixed position, the camera in a fixed position. And then it's very quick. It's a full frontal photograph with the right expression. And then we move around in increments until you get to the profile. Then it's back to the center again and to the profile on the other side.
Okay.
It's like an analog clock face, isn't it? You're taking
all the angles.
Yeah.
And the most important photographs are the full frontal and the profile.
Right.
But the more incremental photographs you get between those two, the easier your job becomes.
Do you get commissioned generally from the person themselves, or is it on behalf of an organisation that maybe they represent, or a charity or something?
Well, lately I'm just dying to do somebody who's alive. And nearly all the portraits that I've been doing lately have been the subject.
Posthumous ones.
Yeah, they're all posthumous.
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
Yeah.
Because you've got no chance of taking these photographs.
Yeah.
If they're famous, and most of them are, then you've got thousands of photographs taken by thousands of different cameras, photographers, different lights, different settings. Everything's different. So in order to be able to get photographs, I'll take David Bowie, for example. There are tens of thousands of photographs of him. About 12 of them were useful. And luckily, I think I said it before, actually, he was done for drugs in New York and had mugshots. Mugshots are brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So I got a really good profile of his face, which was the only one. There are no profiles out there that I could find, because nobody takes a profile unless it's the Queen or something like that. And even then, it's slightly, the profile's slightly out. And when you're doing this process, slightly out isn't good enough. You must not be able to see the eyebrow away from you in a profile. It should just disappear. Then you get a perfect profile and a beautiful notion of how the nose looks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it. And then once that's been done, you take a series of measurements with their expression.
Right. Okay.
And that's pretty much it. You pack up your stuff and go.
Mm. One of the things we teach on our course, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Is how to do the photographs. And also, we work completely differently to the classical ateliers by using this process, because if you've got someone sitting there all day for 6 hours or even longer, it's very difficult to focus on your work when you're feeling responsible for that person's comfort. And,
I can imagine.
Whether they're happy, and you feel like you've got to have a conversation with them. And it takes away from your focus on the actual sculpture, isn't it?
One-to-one's very intense, particularly if you're working with somebody you've never met before.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So when I'm working, I need to be able to focus on getting those measurements right. So the measurements are taken in sequence. Every measurement is a known measurement. For example, if you're taking a measurement of the temples here, It's not a random measurement. It could be anywhere from the orbit of my eye here to my ear here. And as you're taking that measurement, the further it moves towards the ear, the wider it will become. So they're very specific. So in this particular instance, you measure to the end of the eyebrow because you can see the end of the eyebrow, so you know where that measurement is. So the measurements are incredibly specific. And when you're setting up the whole thing, you don't need a person in the room. You just want to get clay on your armature, and you want to get those measurements in as quickly as you possibly can.
Sort of going back slightly, so the first kind of step in this process is the commission, and then you either go meet the person and take photographs, or if it's someone who's passed away, then you select the photograph in the dead of night. You select the photographs that you, and I guess that takes quite a long time to sift, as you said, sift through.
It's a huge amount of time, more than I think actually, because I tend to do it on
well, you do it in the evenings on Pinterest, don't you? But also then Ingrid and I are in the office, and we're also finding photographs and printing them out or scaling them up for you to get them to the right size, aren't we? So there's a lot that goes into it before you actually put the clay on, isn't there?
And so once you've got either your photographs of the person in the flesh or posthumously, then and it's back to the studio. So then it's a case of creating your armature, is that right? And then getting your clay and getting started?
With the portrait, we have a standard portrait headstand.
Okay.
Which I created and we sell actually through the business.
And we just happen to have one with us, actually. This is the way we call it. It's a portrait headstand or a bust stand. The traditional, Andy designed this, and you can explain why, but the general ones that you can buy are just a wooden block with a bit of wire stuck in the top as like a little hoop. Okay. If you buy those online, can't you? And they're very traditional and old fashioned, but Andy designed this specifically to follow the shape of the human anatomy.
Yeah, there's a lovely forward cant in the neck. You can see it here. That is typically human. Then the chest comes out at an opposing angle. And if you have a straight piece of wood, 2x2, then the wood will either come out of the back of the neck or it will come out here at the jugular notch.
Okay.
Because it's cutting through an angle dead straight. And I always hated that because invariably it would spoil the sculpture or restrict what you're trying to achieve. So with this, we've got the whole thing set up so that angle is already preset. And if you put your clay on so that you know that your polystyrene head is dead center, and that's sequential. So the first measurements are always from the jugular notch to the chin.
Right.
Then everything fits beautifully. So the armature fits beautifully within your clay so that when you're pushing into the eyes here, you know you've got plenty of depth in order to be able to achieve what you want to achieve. And you know where the armature is. And from experience, that's a really important thing to do. Otherwise, you're hitting one way or the other.
Sorry, I was going to say it's highlighted in this sculpture here, because if you look at this from the side, you can see how beautifully the head sits, head and neck sit on the rib cage. So it gives you the sense that there's a real body,
definitely
behind here. So it's a really, really special thing, I think, that armature.
You can see the original armature. This is a design that's become the simplified version of the original. But you can see on here, there's a bar coming down here.
Yes,
that's from the original armature, because they were designed and then redesigned and then redesigned until we came up with something that works well every time you use it. And that's really what you want. The other thing is that buy one of these and it lasts you a lifetime. If you run over it with a car, it won't make any difference. It's really strong. These heads that we supply, which you can buy separately, they last probably about 10 portraits easily before they start to deteriorate.
And when the students come on our courses, they get one of these. So that's included in the course fees. So that's theirs to take home, and they can use it again and again and again. So it's a really lovely thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And this wire here is fairly forgiving, so we can move the head around and reposition it afterwards. One of the things with portraiture that I think is very important is a sense of movement. So a head that's in a sense of movement to the body is fantastic. But one of the problems with that is that when we look at ourselves in the mirror in the morning, we are always looking at ourselves dead straight.
Yeah.
Well, you assume so, actually. Nobody knows what goes on in the bathroom, do they?
Probably a good job, Fred.
So when you are doing a portrait, you tend, if you've bent it round to the side to start with, you tend to pull it back round if you're not careful. You have to really watch what you're doing and be aware of how you're sculpting in order not to make it start to twist on its own armature.
And people would sculpt it in a wonky way as well, wouldn't they? So one side would end up flatter than the other, or slightly lopsided if they're not working on it straight on.
So you can move this afterwards, which is a really nice thing.
So this is your armature.
This is the armature.
And so if we go back again, so you've got your commission, your photographs, got your armature, and then I guess it's the case of getting your clay. So and getting started. And where do you even start?
Yeah. I have really beautiful sculpture stands now that are hydraulic.
Okay.
So they move up and down just by a foot pedal. And when you twist them around as you're looking at the sculpture, you're not winding it up like the old sculpture stands used to, or winding it down, because you don't notice you're doing that.
Yeah.
And you tend to always turn in one direction or another. You don't turn both ways. You tend to turn like that or the other way. But if you do that with a screw fitting on your armature stand, it's rising continuously or sinking continuously, and you don't realize you're doing it. So you end up doing this as the sculpture gets higher, or this as the sculpture gets lower. So hydraulic stands are fantastic. And just to advertise that, we sell those as well, don't we? So
Yes, we
you can get everything you need to sculpt from the sculpture school.
Well, it's carefully thought through.
Yeah.
It's about professional sculpture, really. And it makes you comfortable. If you're going to be sculpting for 8-9 hours a day, which we tend to, I want to be comfortable at the end of it, not in agony. So making sure that you're sitting upright and you've got good posture is really important.
Sorry, just going to say also everything that you've created that you sell at the sculpture school has come from years of your own experience of the tools and the equipment that helps you and what works the best. So it's all based on your accumulated knowledge, isn't it?
It is. I am definitely a bit of a tool.
We are going to talk about some tools in a minute, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about sculpting a portrait. So I was just looking at this sculpture here, and because I'm really fascinated at how you depict textures in bronze or in clay. Like when I think of textures here, so obviously clothes, and you've got texture of the eyebrows and the hair. But yeah, do you want to talk us through a little bit about, actually going from everything, all the steps we've just discussed, to creating something like this?
It goes back to actually the way that you are viewing your client before you start. So the texture, what you do with it, I think, is reflected in the personality of the person that you're creating. Okay. So how that works, I don't know what it's going to do beforehand, but I always think that you can do a very quick sketch of somebody. As long as you've got their measurements right, you catch them pretty quickly, within the first hour, really. From that point onwards, it depends on how you feel or how you want to present the sculpture. To me, it's not about one style. It's about a style that fits the format or the narrative of what you're creating. And that's really important. So I quite like this rough and ready look. You can still see, if you know what you're looking for, you can still see the linear strokes that create it. That is, when you pick the clay up, you do You roll the clay in your fingers like that and then apply it to the sculpture. Those linear strokes I call sausages, and you can still see them in the sculpture and the hair if you know what you're looking for. Otherwise, it appears to look like hair, and hair you don't notice unless it's a spectacular hairstyle. You just assume that it is hair, but it's a trick. It's a sort of an informed lie, really, that makes you believe something that isn't so.
You can see thumbprints, and you can sometimes see your fingerprint in it where you've touched the clay, can't you? And I think that's lovely because you've got that essence of the artist actually in the sculpture. And that's really special.
And what is interesting about this, is that if you're trained at Madame Tussauds, for example, you will take this through to hyperrealism, which I love, actually. It's about the ability to be able to do so, I think. So in my world, I don't necessarily want to go to ultra realism. I'd quite like jumping off before that so that we're leaving a bit of texture and a bit of life in the sculpture itself.
And Di, can I just ask you, because you sculpt too, don't you? But you paint as well. Coming to portraiture from like a slightly different perspective to Andy, are there any tips or anything that you can give listeners about? Because you're both coming at slightly different angles, aren't you?
Yes. It's difficult to hone in on any one thing. I think it's really important to suggest things.
Okay.
So if you're drawing or painting, you don't want everything to have the same depth and strength of line. You want to vary it. You want to blur edges. You don't want to literally paint all the bricks in the wall. You want to have areas that come in and out of focus. And I think Andy's particularly good at that in sculpture, is that some areas are in very fine detail and others are just this brush stroke, as it were, but it's a linear stroke in clay. And I think it gives you more of a suggestion and a subtlety rather than having everything exactly the same.
Explicit.
I think it's much more evocative, and it allows people to read different things into it. And in sculpture, you can actually feel it because you want to touch the different textures. So I think it's important to have that variety. So I would say my approach to painting or drawing is the same in clay. It's just having that subtlety and difference that makes it exciting.
To bring out certain features and details and soften others.
No, it's a bit about less is more, I think.
Definitely.
One of the things that students tend to do when they first start is they overwork the surface. Right. So they're constantly smoothing what they believe is smoothing. It's one of the things that I think smoothing is out of the question.
It kills.
You're looking for the nuances and the planes within the person's face or whatever it is you're sculpting. That's what you're looking for, the anatomy. You're not looking to smooth things out. And the smoothing creates a kind of surface that I call porridge. So you get what looks okay in clay because clay is very forgiving. It absorbs light, so you get this matte finish from clay when you're looking at it, and that's very flattering for your sculpture. If you're not aware of the way that you're creating the surface, when it's translated into a shiny material like bronze that reflects light, then you get this awful finish that just literally looks like the top of a bowl of porridge.
Right.
And it kills the sculpture stone dead. And so there's lots of things to be aware of, actually. Nuances that come through experience. And I love teaching this, and I love watching the students gradually getting it as they get that ability to be able to see more than the average person sees, and control it in a way that creates exactly what they want.
And in terms of when we talked about sculpting a human body, so figurative sculpture. We talked about things like sacral dimples and little things that you can pop in to a sculpture to, like, make it sort of more beautiful, or, I don't know, but just to enhance the ultimate sculpture. Do you find yourself doing that with portraits, and what kind of additional techniques do you use, and what do you put in?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And I take my cue from classical art, actually. There's some beautiful physical attributes that are very often used in classical art that I think are brilliant. Like, for example, the bump that you get just here is actually part of your skull. It's called the glabella. And I have got a glabella, actually. You can see it on my face quite clearly. It's this sort of slightly winged area just here, just above the eyebrows, right in the center. That's the glabella. And in classical art, you see the glabella all the time. It just looks brilliant. It creates this kind of rugged classical look that I think is fantastic. When I see the photographs from Florence, the Florence Academy, I just think, wow, it looks brilliant. And it does. It's fantastic. But I don't want to use something like that all the time, if you see what I mean. This is more about applying classical techniques to a modern world with the restraints that the modern world brings, like people that are too busy to sit, which we were talking about before. Going back to that, incidentally, my way of working is that I can get a good likeness, in fact, a very good likeness from the measurements and the photographs. Then you get the client back, and then you see things that you can't see in the photographs. You can't see this area here and here in a photograph. And there can be things going on here that you would not see at all. So when you get the real person back in for 2 to 3 hours, they love it, because they can go, in the evening they can go, well, you'll never guess what I was doing this afternoon. I was sitting for a portrait, and so they can wax lyrical about how successful they are and how brilliant the whole experience has been, and they're already blown away by the sculpture itself. They can see themselves in it, and they're relieved, apart from anything, because it's quite a bit of money. And so you're playing a game, in effect. I always think of the Duke of Wellington over this, because he had to sit for 56 portraits.
Yeah,
there's no photography, so he literally had to sit there. And the tedium, I mean, those artists really were the paparazzi of their day, just a nuisance. And now we can get around all of that. And I'm loving all this new technology that comes in. Bring it on, I say, because now you can scan somebody's head with your phone. And then you've got a 3-dimensional scan of their head, which frankly is a brilliant tool on top of the tools you've already got. It doesn't replace it, because if you try and sculpt from a scan freehand, everything gets lost, because there's no sequence to the measurements. There's no way that you can create the face and make it work. But if you've got those measurements and you're doing it properly, that scan is absolutely fantastic. I mean, really helpful. It gives you the person in the room with you without them actually being there with you.
This, I guess, like, part of the sort of what listeners can take from this is the sort of blend of old techniques, classical teaching, and the way you teach, and then also using modern technology, and with the two combined, you can come up with the most kind of realistic.
You can really use it to your advantage.
And in terms of tools, should we just talk about? We were going to talk about a couple of the tools that you use.
Well, I thought if we talked about the calipers, because we were talking about measurements for portraits, and these we couldn't sculpt without them, could we?
No,
really?
No. In fact, I can't teach without them. I can't teach without them either. And you can't buy these anymore. Right. So that you used to
not
be able
good
to,
ones anyway.
Yes, you used to be able to buy them from Tarantes. who still are the main sculpture suppliers, but they're not as...
They've been taken over by a large company.
They're not the company
they
used to be. And I found that desperately upsetting because I couldn't buy the tools that I wanted to buy. And if I couldn't buy them, then I've got to make them. So this is a really lovely set of calipers. And the idea is it moves a bit like a camera lens moves. So you get this lovely smooth movement. It doesn't lock as you open and close it. And these things are absolutely brilliant. And again, we manufacture these and sell them so that students have got their most important tool. Without this, you can't do a portrait. You can't do sculpture per se. Actually, it is the most important tool.
How would you use that tool?
So, do you want to demonstrate on my face or Lindsey's to show how you would?
Yeah.
Get those measurements.
I'm going to move this out of the way because I'm going to hit.
While you're doing that, I'm going to take off.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it on you, Danny. So, for example, we've already spoken about the measurement of the temples will be to the end of the eyebrow. So I'll take my calipers and putting my fingers over the edge of the blade so that I don't poke it into the client's face. That would now give me the measurement of Diane's temples, which will be about 110 to 115. One of the things that has come across really clearly from teaching is how close everybody's measurements are.
Right.
They vary by a very small amount, 15 millimeters at the most, I would say. And that is when you're standing at Heathrow Airport with thousands of people. Their measurements are almost all the same. You can pretty well predict what they're going to be within 15 to 20 millimeters. And that I find quite magical, actually. We're all so similar. It's just incredible.
Now, I remember hearing you say that during the 34 muscles, most important muscles of the human body, and hearing, like, you just talk about how, we the fundamentals are basically so similar, and yet we all look so different. I mean, I know there are a few doppelgangers out there, but basically we've all got a unique look, haven't we? And yet everything is so similar.
And the calipers, you use them two different ways as well, don't you? So if you're going around something, you use them as you did. Like and then if it's a vertical one, you
they get crossed over. So any kind of internal space like that, for example, you would cross the calipers over. Okay. Or if you're measuring height, they'll measure height in a vertical line like that. You can't do it with the calipers that way around because the curve of the blade, which is essential, stops you from being able to get the tip of the blade onto the work surface without tipping it. Okay. So the more you tip it, the more you transcribe an arc, much like you would if you were holding a compass. So there's a certain skill to this.
And if you were doing the jugular notch to the chin, that's one of the most important.
Yeah, jugular notch to the chin would be from there to the bottom of the chin like that. So the calipers would be crossed like that. So these were really important, and they are beautiful, beautiful tools now.
So we've been through quite a few different manufacturers to actually get them.
I think we still are, actually.
We're still working our way through different suppliers.
But that's brilliant that students, anyone who wants to sculpt, can buy the equipment through the sculpture school, can't they? Through your sculpture school. So even if you can't come on a course or something, but you might already be sculpting at home, but need to access some of these pieces of equipment, and people can simply contact.
I'm really keen on helping people get started. Yeah. It's all about creativity at the end of the day. It's not about making the next Michelangelo.
Yeah.
It is about people finding something that utterly absorbs them.
Yeah.
I think it's really important, and there's so little emphasis on it these days that it's quite frightening.
Yeah. Was there another tool as well, Di, that you wanted to talk about?
There's golden mean calipers.
I just threw them on the floor. These are golden mean calipers, and they used to cost well over £100 just for a little pair like this. Right. That will define the golden mean. The golden mean is a mathematical formula, I suppose.
The Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah, it's a Fibonacci sequence. It means that the wider part of the two distances between the ends of the blades. One is, this wider part is 1.6 longer than this narrower part. And the easiest way to see it on the human body is to define it on fingers. So it will define the knuckles of the fingers perfectly on everyone, actually. So it's a dead cert. That's where you'll find the golden mean most easily on the human body. It in fact is everywhere on the human body, but as a rule of thumb. So rules of thumb are generally true, whereas this is always true unless you've had a terrible accident or you have something congenitally wrong with your hands.
Okay.
It will always be like that. So if you are sculpting a hand, golden mean calipers, I'd say, are indispensable.
Okay.
They used to cost over £100 each and were very rare, hard to get hold of. And now this pair is £3. This is what we give the students.
It's amazing because the beauticians use them now for sculpting eyebrows. So golden mean calipers, they use them all the time.
Right.
So you can now get these golden mean calipers on the internet, no names mentioned. There's so many different types. But if you want a really brilliant pairs, there's a chap in New Zealand that makes them, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And we've ordered some beautiful ones from him.
Yeah.
And they're bespoke. You place an order and you get them about 8 weeks later. They're amazing.
I love that as well, that you're keeping the craftsmanship going of people who create, you know, people who buy off your tools.
Yeah.
You know, that keeps you creating these tools too. But also, like, it's so important to have these kind of bits of equipment that are, you know, they're specifically tailored by sculptors for sculpting. So you know exactly what you're doing, what a sculptor needs, and, you know, facilitating it. Before we go on to something else just briefly, because we're sort of coming towards the end of our podcast, but Andy, could you just tell us a little bit about the sculpture that you've referred to here?
Yes.
This is John.
This is John, yes. John used to work opposite me in my old studio in Buckinghamshire. And he fixed hot air balloons. He was a genius.
Wow.
He actually sewed the balloons, didn't he?
Yeah, he sewed the panels of the balloons together.
It was out of parachute silk, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You two have had such an interesting life. And the people you've met, like how many people know someone that sews balloons?
I know. It was fantastic. Every now and then they'd come in and I'd drop everything at the end of the day on a summer's day.
Oh, no.
And go on a balloon ride. Just fantastic. Yeah, incredible.
I'd quite like that if someone offered
That's a real shame.
I know, it was a shame. Years ago, I asked him if I could do a portrait. It was back in 2006, actually, when I was doing my solo show in London. And I did him as what's the sculpture that's called Marinette's Conundrum.
Okay.
And he's a four-armed puppet master.
Okay.
Bald and looking pretty creepy. And
black teeth.
Yeah, he hasn't got black teeth.
Well,
he's got makeup on.
Yeah.
He looks pretty creepy. And when John saw it as a piece, he really wasn't happy.
I'm not surprised. I know that sculpture.
Yeah,
I would be happy.
He definitely had a bit of a humour
I don't look like that.
He doesn't look creepy. He's a lovely man. But what was interesting about it is just as I was leaving the old studio to come down here to Devon, John asked me if he could have a real portrait done of himself.
Yeah.
Because he's the end of his line. When John goes, there are no other
in his family.
There's that's the end of his family altogether.
Right. Yeah.
And that's real mortality, actually. And I get how he feels about it. And it brought a poignancy to the fact that I'd, created a rather light-hearted interpretation of him before. But he was deadly serious about it, so he paid me for a bronze. And when I'm doing portraits like this, I really want to get across who that person is. And we were talking about it before. It's about expression
and their story
and their stories. So the narrative is within the sculpture itself. There's his industrial sewing machine that he uses to fix the balloons. He was also, prior to that, he worked in the theatre, and he also was a jeweler. So he had his own. What do you call it?
He's got his own hallmark.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His actual hallmark.
Yeah. So we've got the hot air balloons, we've got his dueling tools, and we've got
a
the
ring sizer.
It feels like it all fits together, you know, sort of hot air balloons, theatre and jewellery. It's kind of got a certain ring to it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Ring to it.
No pun intended.
Quite proud of that. So we're just wrapping up this episode now, and we've talked about human portraiture today, but in our next episode we're going to be looking at or talking about animal portraiture. So we're going to be sort of flipping the species. But before we say goodbye, we want to remind viewers that, you know, please send in your questions, because we'd like you to feel free to ask us, you know, anything, and every episode will answer one of your questions about sculpting or art or whatever. And also, Di, can you tell listeners what courses are coming up?
My crib sheet here. So, yes, we've got, having talked about portraits, we've got a portrait course in June, which is coming up very shortly. And then in July, on the 2nd of July, we've got a Taste of Sculpture workshop, which is the human head.
Okay.
But that's just a small generic head. And then in August, we have an animal sculpture course. So that's doing a small, complete animal. And then there's another taster day in August.
Okay.
As well, on the human head.
So, yes, we just advise all our listeners just to log onto the website.
Just pop onto the website, and then you
details.
can see our calendar, and you can book online, or you can give us a call.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And also, just as a quick reminder to everyone as well, there is some beautiful accommodation that you can book to stay at the sculpture school, as well as two gorgeous shepherd's huts.
2 shepherd's huts and an artist's garret.
Yeah. So,
and the website for that is www.burnswood.co.uk.
Okay, so you can come and sculpt
and stay in our artist wonderland.
Yeah.
Total immersion.
Yeah, no, it sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and have a brilliant week. And listeners, get in touch with your questions, and please subscribe to our podcast and recommend us to anyone else as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Thank you.